That's Roddy Piper. Yeah, there's a dude over there. That's Roddy Piper. I don't care if he's got the perfect bodybuilding body and Roddy's got a big gut. That's Roddy Piper. That's a dude. Man, it's like I said, it had everything, but at the same time with Roddy and how they brought him in with that, it was a little bit confusing. In other words, he was on Vince's side, but then when there was a double down, he spit on both guys. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, he's sort of teasing hitting Vince first, and then he goes for Hogan.
Then he hits Hogan, but then he spits on both guys and does the kiss my ass thing and walks out. So I thought it was going to be really a resurrection of the Hogan and Piper thing from the 80s because Hogan kept trying to get Piper to put him over, but Piper wouldn't put him over, and it kept Piper strong. It was the right decision in a way for business. That mystique that still sticks with Roddy Piper, even after he's gone, rest in peace, that he's the one guy that wouldn't succumb to the Hulk Hogan rub of basically getting beat by Hogan and kept himself strong to the point where he had a whole career in WWF, WCW, back to WWE, and still kept the mystique all throughout that. Now, I thought when I saw him, I did notice the weight gain and the stomach. I thought it might have been just a back injury because I know something about that your core is very weak after that, or from all those years of all those violent matches of working 300 some days a year for many years, that it finally took a toll on his body. He couldn't work out, and it finally hit the wall. So
well, it's even worse, actually, because obviously he had double hip surgery when he was in WCW, which really hampered his movement. But also the year before this, in 2002, he was in a very bad car wreck. That would do it. As well, yeah.
So you combine, he's in a car wreck every night for how many years, on top of the fact he's in a real car wreck, or there's probably car accidents and injuries that Roddy, remember, this is a time when the fans were attacking him as a heel way, way back. So he could have gotten a fight. I think somebody tried to stab him a few times, throw acid on him. These are some tough days.
Has been in several plane crashes.
See, he's afforded a little bit of a belly at this point. So definitely Roddy's up there. And this is post They Live, Hollywood. Piper's the original one, the OG. That was, Hogan did all the movies too. But Roddy, dare I say it, is more on the level towards Rocky with the movies because that They Live. I mean, nobody can touch what They Live still holds up today. And his part and the way he played it was just perfection.
I'm going to give you this. Roddy Piper's on the level of Jesse Ventura as a film star.
I would say that Predator. Yeah, I give him that just because of affinity for Roddy Piper. With that being said, you're right. But Jesse with Predator, that got him mainstream and that got him more notoriety for years and decades. And if Roddy was still here today, I figured people would want WWE, but just as many people at Comic-Cons and autograph signings would want him to sign They Live pictures and merchandise. That says something.
This is such an interesting time in WWE because they're really transitioning from being popular to nowhere near as popular, quite frankly. 2004 would be actually, an even bigger dip, I guess. But there's so many characters that run through WWE around this time. Roddy Piper, of course, one of the biggest characters. And he lasts less than 3 months, which I guess for people who know Vince and Roddy's story, that might not be all that surprising. But we'll talk about why he's fired in a minute, but do you remember the brief time when he's aligned with Sean O'Haire, which seemed like, because Sean O'Haire, once again, these vignettes are coming out, they're absolutely fantastic vignettes, and it just turns out Sean just can't really live up to the hype, I guess, because he can't replicate that in a live setting. Then he's paired with Roddy Piper, and Roddy Piper is just a charisma, just tour de force. And he basically swallows Sean up, basically, as far as that goes, as being a pairing on TV as well. And then, Sean's in the background where Roddy and Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon are sort of all taking up the space, I guess. What do you remember of this period? I know you weren't on separate brands, but of Roddy and the Sean thing and how that sort of came across.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, I don't know how it came to be, but I do know how it came across because Piper was one of those guys. I didn't watch much wrestling back then, even. Most of my stuff was TNA was starting, so I wanted to watch different promotions and try to stay and remain a fan of wrestling because it's really easy when you're in the bubble and you're one company and you don't watch anything else that you can really lose your passion. It's not about falling out of love with the business, but it's about when it becomes a job, it's the hardest job in the world. So I was trying to, and Roddy was one of those people when he was on SmackDown, I would watch his segments and I thought the same thing because I thought, man, I always wanted to work with Roddy to some extent. And I was jealous at first when I saw Sean being his protege or whatever. They never even said what he was. I'm assuming protege or bodyguard or whatever.
Neighbor. Could have been anything.
Yeah. I mean, whatever he was. But I remember when I watched, my wish went away real quick about trying to be aligned, not working with Roddy, like opposing him, because that to me would be a dream come true. Being aligned with him, even with what people say, I have charisma and can cut a promo and I can stand my ground and hold my own, I would have got swallowed up. Like anybody that knows, like I don't think Sean knew. Like, he didn't have enough awareness to know that, oh my God, I'm supposed to be the one that Roddy is featuring, but Roddy is so charismatic, even in a subdued manner, I look second fiddle. I look like Silent Bob, and he's Jay, talking, everybody, doing all that stuff. But even more pronounced, Roddy wasn't trying to bury Sean. He's trying to get Sean over he would talk Sean up. He would involve Sean in physicality, stuff like that. But the minute Roddy opens his mouth, or even when he doesn't open his mouth, that's Roddy Piper. Yeah, there's a dude over there. That's Roddy Piper. I don't care if he's got the perfect bodybuilding body and Roddy's got a big gut. That's Roddy Piper. That's a dude. And that's the way I saw it. And I felt bad for Sean. But then again, when you scrap the devil on your shoulder vignettes and the gimmick, you really there's nothing better than that. Like how he couldn't pull that off live, because I used to talk to Sean. The personality and the cadence, the inflection, the tone, the calm, smooth way of talking and walking, that was him. In other words, you said they did 20 takes of those vignettes. I think the takes that made it to TV were the ones where they told him, oh, we're not recording, let's just run through it. The minute they said, we're filming, 3, 2, 1, go, it's over. I believe those takes were literally, he didn't know the cameras were on, and they just let him talk.
So we have to talk about Roddy being fired. And it's sort of
You want me to tell my story first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm very sorry. Please.
No, I forgot to. Don't worry.
I actually wrote it down and I forgot. My apologies.
All right, we were backstage at WrestleMania 19. Everybody's around, and anytime I was around Roddy during this time, or I saw him on an indie after I got released up in, I believe it was Wisconsin. It was a big outdoor show. Anytime I was around him, I would be ultra respectful, and I wouldn't care about marking out. I would ask him a question. So I would ask him about the coconut. I would ask him about Piper's Pit. I'd ask him about Morton Downey Jr., all the things people would want to ask him. And he would smile, be very humble, and tell the story. But then he would get fired up about the purse. Yeah, but then Morton Downey Jr. thought he would. I loved it. It was great. I mean, I was literally like anything short of just sitting on the floor, folding my legs like a little kid and doing this. In my mind, that's what I was doing. But I looked around and I remember Roddy said something like, man, this locker room, something or whatever. And I walked up to him and I go, hey, Roddy, I got a question for you, if you don't mind. And he would be like, oh, yes, sir. What do you want to ask? And I'd be like, how did you survive around all these scumbags? And he laughed and he goes, a lot of help, if you know what I mean. And it's just like, those are the moments as a worker. Not that was like a joke that he actually answered. I thought he'd just laugh and whatever. You're a good guy. You're a good kid. But when I would ask my questions too, and there weren't many, there could never be enough. if Roddy was around today, I'd still try to ask him questions. Like I said, if I had access to talk to Dutch, I would pick his brain because I didn't have the opportunity in TNA when I worked with him, and I feel regret for that. But Roddy also, and this is so, it's somebody be like, what? But when I would ask him a question or talk to him or whatever, and make him smile, or he would tell the story, he would say, "You're a good kid," or "You're a good guy," or whatever, and he'd rub my hair like I was 8 years old, and I would be like, "That's so cool." I didn't care. It's just memories like that make, those are my moments where, like, if I could get to be a fan and I'm not trounced over or treated like crap, that's the stuff